if I really want to sort of get to know you, if I really want to understand who you are and what makes you tick, I'm not going to ask, what do you know? There's a million things that you know that don't tell me anything about who you really are. I'm not even going to ask just, what do you believe? Because again, there are all kinds of things that you believe that don't really necessarily touch the very core of who you are. And that's because you're not just a thinking thing. You're not just a brain on a stick. Your thoughts don't really disclose and animate and orient you. No, if I really want to sort of peer into who you are and understand what makes you tick, here's the question I want to ask you. What do you want? What do you want? What are your wants, your desires, your hungers, your cravings, your longings? What are your loves? Because that is the real animating center of your identity. In a sense, every Instagram post where you said #want tells me more about you than the petitions that you've signed, and certainly more about you probably than the term papers that you've written. As that great theologian Bruce Springsteen once put it, everybody's got a hungry heart. And in a way, that's what I want to meditate on tonight and think with you about and try to unpack philosophically. What does it mean that everybody's got a hungry heart? And that hungry heart is actually the engine that drives you. So here, in fact, is the really discomforting reality I want us to run up against. What if I don't know what I want? What if I don't love what I think? This sort of discomforting epiphany hit home for me when I was watching a film by the Russian filmmaker Andrei Tarkovsky called I Need Better Hobbies, granted. But I don't know if any of you are Tarkovsky fans. Some of you might know other films, Andrei Rublev. Tarkovsky has this kind of neglected film called Stalker. And it's such a powerful articulation of our question tonight that I want to try to rehearse it with you just briefly. I'm not going to assume that you've seen it. You have to imagine this film is, it's kind of half Cormac McCarthy's The Road, and the other half is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, okay? So it's this weird blend of sort of sci-fi, noir, thriller, but set in an entirely post-apocalyptic wasteland that has been destroyed by some kind of catastrophe, we know not what. And into this world, we step and meet three key characters. That's why it's so easy to get this film. The three key characters are the writer, the professor, hence I was a sucker for this movie, the writer, the professor, and then this guy called the stalker, which is not as creepy as it sounds, because really the stalker is something like the guide, if you will. Okay? And the first part of this film is us following writer and professor on this arduous journey with the stalker, who is leading them through this post-apocalyptic wasteland that's, imagine just this kind of bombed out, dark, black and white world, but they are trying to get someplace, and the place they're trying to get to is called the Zone. And really what they want to do is, and picture the Zone now as this like bright, colorful, lush oasis of hope. And then where they're really trying to get to is something like the inner sanctum, the almost kind of holy of holies within the Zone that is simply called the room. Right? Tarkovsky, not super descriptive or creative with the titles. Writer, professor with stalker, trying to make their way to this room. Why? What's in the room? In this room, he tells them, they will achieve their heart's desires. When you get to the room, all your dreams will come true. In the room, you get exactly what you want. Which is why then, when they're on the very threshold of the room, professor and writer, interestingly, start to get cold feet. And one of our great essayists and critics of today, Jeff Dyer, you might see him in the New York Review of Books, he wrote a brilliant little book about this movie. The book is called Zona, and I want you to just hear his description of this key moment in the film because he captures it perfectly. They are in a big, dark, derelict, abandoned, damp room with what looked like the remains of an enormous chemistry set floating in the puddle in the middle, as if the zone resulted from an ill-conceived experiment that went horribly wrong. Off to the right, through a large hole in the wall, is a source of light that they all look towards. For a long while, no one speaks. The air is full of the chirpy, chirpy, cheep, cheep of bird song. It's the opposite of those places where the sedge has withered from the lake and no birds sing. Here, the birds are whistling and chirruping and singing like mad. And so Stocker tells writer and professor, in a way he tells us, that we are now on the very threshold of the room. This is the most important moment in your life, he says. Your innermost wish will be made true here. So it's like Stocker has led them to the threshold of this room. This is why we've been on this journey. This is why we've made this arduous pilgrimage. They get to the place that they've been longing for. Stocker opens the door and basically says, who wants to go first? And writer and professor basically do one of these numbers. They both get cold feet. Why? Isn't this why we're here? Isn't this everything you've been hoping for? Who doesn't want to step into the room where you're going to get exactly what you want? It dawns on them. What if I don't know what I want?